There we go.
Well, hello, everybody. We're on, and we welcome you. It's September 24th. We're talking about the petition delivery that will be happening shortly at the office of the governor of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, regarding the case of Blaine Milam. We had more than 16,000 signatures on our petition that is being delivered today. Unfortunately, that delivery is a little bit late because the coffee shop was late in delivering. In any case, that's happening. Unfortunately for Blaine, all of his appeals have been denied. His stay request is denied. That execution is scheduled for 6 p.m. tomorrow in Huntsville, Texas, and of course we'll be hopefully having a live stream from there if we can find somebody that will be live with us on our stream tomorrow, because the person that usually does that for us, Danny Allen, with the prison show, will be inside witnessing the execution. She is a good friends with Blaine Milam, and as if you've been with us on the last couple of editions of the forecast, our monthly preview of upcoming executions, then you would know, because Danny has been with us to share about her experience with Blaine. So hopefully we'll either have a recording from her, or maybe we'll play what she's done in the past, and maybe we'll hear from her after the execution. We'll see. So that's the situation. I'm coming to you right now from Samford College. Hey, Gary, got that picture handy? Let me share with you. So Samford College is in Birmingham, Alabama, and we delivered the petitions here in Birmingham yesterday for Gregory West, who is being executed tomorrow as well. The amazing thing about that case is the victim family, the son of the victim, has been asking for the execution not to happen, for him to be able to meet with Gregory West, or Jeffrey West, I should say, and express his forgiveness and reconciliation. So anyway, I just finished speaking with a class here at Samford College in Birmingham. In the middle, it was interrupted, of course. Let's see if we can see this. I don't know if you can see it, but they made us cover our trailer, our messages. so Jeff, I'm talking to your First Amendment guy. But I don't want to get in trouble on the campus yet, because I have a campus-wide presentation at 1:30. And it's one of those things where the students get credit if they come. So it should be a good audience, and I'm hoping that some of the Turning Point people will show up and prove me wrong. So that's the situation here. So we wanted to talk about Blaine Milam. Jeff has, and if you go to the Death Penalty Action Petition, now I can put up the, now I will share the link to the Death Penalty Action Petition for Blaine, which has links to the issues around his intellectual disability. But yesterday, we also added a link to Jeff's very powerful a piece that he published on Pathos on his blog about Blaine and the fact of what is happening right now in our movement, which is that most cases are not getting attention from the big shots in the movement, or in this case, even the state organization. If you go to the webpage of the Texas Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty, you have to hunt to find the two sentences that they have about Blaine's case and about the fact of his execution. There's actually no suggestion that anybody should do anything, like call the governor or sign a petition or do anything. I mean, it's kind of surprising. And if you know the Texas Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. But Jeff has this piece in which he shares about all of the things that should be concerning about Blaine Milam. And I want to invite him to come and talk to us about that in a moment. But what is, it's the webpage and the social media of not just the Texas Coalition, but other organizations as well. We're all talking about Robert Robertson. And of course we should be talking about Robert Robertson. Robert's case, he was almost executed last year. There's a really serious innocence claim. And just how he didn't get executed was also really unique. It was hours after the execution time, and instead of being executed. He got a stay from the Texas Supreme Court, which doesn't normally weigh in on criminal matters. But the lawsuit was about, from the legislators wanting him to not be killed so that he could testify at their hearing they were going to have about this law that basically says if the science that was used to convict you gets changed, then you get a fresh look at the evidence that science was that faulty science was used to convict you on. And that's been allowed in other cases, but it wasn't allowed in Robert's case. And that's what they wanted to talk about. And it was, and not just about his case, but about that law. And has it been implemented? That's really what the evaluation was that was supposed to be done. In any case, Robert's got a new date. It's October 16th, and it's as if he is the only person with an execution date. And that's wrong. We have right now, I think, 11 people scheduled for execution. We know there are more executions that will be scheduled this year, especially in Florida. We also have at least 2 people with strong innocence claims. Anthony Boyd, we're not really hearing much about his innocence claim. We'll hear more about him too. But also Lance Shockley in Missouri. You look at his page, istandwithlance.com, and he has a really, really compelling argument to make for that questions his guilt and maybe establishes his innocence. And nobody's talking about it. The Innocence Project isn't talking about it. Amnesty International has an urgent action out about Lance. That's great, but very few people are talking about it. They're talking about Robert Robertson, and they're not talking about Blaine, and they're not talking about Jeffrey, and they're not talking about the other, I think there's going to be 5 people executed in a 7-day period, October 10th to October 17th. So why aren't we talking about all those cases? Rather, why isn't the broader movement? Because, of course, death penalty action is, and that's why we're here today. So Jeff is here, Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood is here. And Jeff, can you come on and share about the op-ed or the piece that you wrote, what spurred it, and what are your general findings?
Yeah, I think it's certainly an interesting time in terms of our movement. There's a lot of cases, a lot of claims, a lot of players, and sometimes it's difficult to wade through all of these things. And with Blaine's case, I think that my experience, just reading through the accounts, reading through the case, is that there's a number of things that make this situation an indictment of our culture, the state of Texas, who we are. The first of which is, that this case was, built around this idea that Blaine was performing an exorcism on his daughter, and and of course, I'm sure drugs were involved in that. I'm sure, intellectual disability, which we'll get to in a second, was involved. But the reality is that toxic religion creates these circumstances that lead to these violent responses, violent spiritual responses that leads to death and destruction. In this situation, it led to the death of this little girl. But in a broader sense, we are seeing repeatedly that religion and spirituality, toxic religion and spirituality, does harm continually in our society. So I want everybody to know, if it ain't about love, it ain't about God. And if it hurts, it ain't about God. If it's, something that dehumanizes, kills, is destructive, it ain't got nothing to do with God. And so here Blaine is sort of steeped in this language and in these thoughts. And there were certainly drugs involved. One has to ask themselves how someone that's 18 years old, well, maybe perhaps you don't have to ask yourself how someone that's 18 years old becomes addicted and riddled with drugs. Our society seems to be very comfortable with the amount of drugs that are all over the place. And I think the other piece that is important to point out is intellectual disability. It's very clear that Blaine is someone who is not competent in the way that um, you know he can be held responsible for what he did. Of course, the court's definitions of competence changes on feels like a daily basis. They feel like if they can get you up to a certain place, then that's what they're trying to do. They want to get you to a certain score so they can execute you. And so I think you've got three spaces in Blaine's case and situation that are really important to reflect on: toxic religion, drugs, the level in which the amount of drugs that this society is promulgating, but also addiction and like we say that we want people to get help, and the question, of course, becomes, well, where do they go? Who do they turn to? And I think lastly, this space of intellectual disability. It's very clear that Blaine didn't get a lot of help from a very early age. Um, and, when you see these early images of Blaine right after this crime was committed, um, he looks like a little child. Um, he,
It's
he,
stunning,
he
stunning.
doesn't look like an adult. He looks like, a 13, 12-year-old child. In fact, my children that are right around that age look older than he does in that picture. And so I guess the point is that when something like this happens, you have to begin to ask yourself, how are we responsible? What did we do that led to this situation? And I think that even beyond that, it creates a special responsibility. Now, of course, everyone deserves to be, people to stand up for them, especially when it comes to executions. When people's lives are in the line, we should stand up for everyone. But I think we have a particular responsibility to stand up for those that we have failed, and a particular responsibility for those who are ignored, those who are considered monsters, and those who are forgotten. And I think it's very clear that we live in a moment, we exist in a moment, we work in a moment where Blaine is the epicenter of the sins of the abolition movement. He is the epicenter of our neglect for the cases that are not palatable to us, and he's the epicenter of this idea that some people are expendable. And so I think that this is not just an indictment of um, the different groups or a particular group or anything like that. For me, it's a wider indictment of, why do we do that? Why do we think that some people matter more than others? I mean, it's intrinsic to humanity. Why do we think that some people matter more than others? It's a not great. It's a horrible philosophical question, I guess is a better way of saying it. And so I think that the movement um, the movement should exhibit what is best about us as human beings, not what is the worst about us. And what is the worst about us is when we throw people away and we act like people don't matter. Chances are that Blaine will be executed if history is any sort of indicator.
Yeah.
And the question for all of us should be, why are we just now talking about Blaine? Why is Blaine just now coming up? I would be remiss if I didn't speak to Rob Robertson. There's no doubt that
Just so I can put this down real quick. This is the
sure.
picture that Jeff published in his blog. It's a screenshot from video coverage from shortly after Blaine was arrested. And look at him. I mean, he reads today at an eighth grade level, but this is who we failed. Thanks, Jeff. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as far as Rob Robertson goes, I mean, we have heard all about Rob Robertson, and we have seen abolitionists in Texas, lawyers in Texas, being willing to move heaven and earth to save Rob Robertson. Well, why does Rob Robertson matter more than anyone else? I saw John Grisham jump on this, and he's going to have a book coming out about Rob Robertson. I mean, I
A
I
year
think
from
that
now, not until
I
next
think that,
June.
well, of course, yeah, a good distance away. But I guess when I see people jumping on these cases, especially well-known people, celebrities, you can't help but think, what is there to gain for this person by doing this? Like, why is this person coming around in this situation and not other situations? Now, what of course is being argued is that this is a case of actual innocence. Well, that could be true, could not be true. I mean, the bottom line is we have no idea. None of us have any idea. I mean, there are some situations that perhaps innocence is more likely than others, but the bottom line is it's scary when abolitionist celebrities start functioning like they are experts, or they know all of, the truth, or they function with such certainty, and yet are so certain that they can leave people behind. And I think that's what we're talking about with
I, I,
Blaine.
I agree with all those points, except I do want to say, John Grisham is a former prosecutor and also on the board of the Innocence Project, and that's really what we're seeing is the Innocence Project is leaning all in on that one case, and therefore they're pulling all the stops out, which is what they should be doing. And I can't fault that, um, but I just I fault those of us in the movement that are about the issue as big as it is. Um, rather, let me rephrase that. Those of us that are abolitionists, that are against the death penalty, that oppose every execution, need to be talking about the rest of these cases. Um, of course, when there's a case that is emblematic, that helps us understand a particular issue more, and especially when there's an innocence claim, of course there's got to be more attention to that, more people, more resources put into it. But we're also talking about culpability. And that's why, like, for example, Blaine and even Jeffrey West. I confess I don't know too much about Jeffrey West's case, other than that the victim's family forgives him. And I can tell you why that is for me. I'm looking at every single execution, and I tell people you have to get in line because we're overwhelmed with the number of executions that are going on. And I'm sorry, I can't read everything all the time as early as I want to, and I'm trying to do better. But for our movement to not even talk about the fact of there's an execution tomorrow night in Texas, and you can't find any more than 2 sentences about it on the website of the Texas Coalition. Um, you know, why aren't they out there also saying this one is wrong? And it's not, there's a guy executed a few months ago who there really were no issues that to be raised necessarily that we were aware of. Very few people talked about him other than us. Thanks to everybody that actually helped pitch in for his funeral. But point is, every person matters, and every case deserves to have a spotlight shown on it, at least when it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think something else that I was thinking about is, you know, I can't help but wonder. Well, I guess I don't have to wonder. I mean, I've been with these guys whose cases are getting no attention, and I've been with these guys who, are having to deal with being forgotten, and that is a horrible thing. Um, when people say, why didn't anybody care about me? Um, I mean, what are you supposed to say? Because you don't have the right publicist, you don't have the right organization. It's a frightening thing, very frightening. Allie, did we lose Abe?
Sorry, I'm here. I was just texting Denise Palacios, our board member who has just arrived to the Texas Capitol. Maybe, Ali, you could text her since you're also not on your phone, just to say that if she can join the live, great, but she texted to say that she's soaking wet. So I'm going to presume that that means either she ran from the copy shop to the Capitol, or more likely it is raining in Austin. So that's my guess. So I'm not. I told her she doesn't have to join us if she's uncomfortable. But at this moment, Denise Palacios, board member of Death Penalty Action, and also a person who's a key figure with us in organizing to stop the execution of Melissa Lucio, is in the Texas State Capitol right now on her way to the governor's office to deliver the Death Penalty Action petition signatures for Blaine Milam. So that's happening right now. And anybody that got the late notice announcement that you could join her for that, I hope you're still there. It seems unlikely at this point, but the bottom line is petitions are being delivered, and we're raising up this issue. And Jeff is absolutely right. How are we not? You know, who is lesser? Why are any one of these people lesser? You know, so that's why we wanted to get on today. Sorry, that's why we wanted to get on. Just talk about these issues to recognize. Tomorrow night we'll be talking about Jeffrey West and Blaine Milam during the vigil, the live virtual vigil that starts at 5 p.m. Central Time, as we witness prayerfully and protesting their execution in the live vigil. I'll be outside. I expect to be outside the prison in Alabama. Sadly, it's about the forecast is 80% chance of rain. So we've been there before in rain, but not sure what the forecast is in Texas. But I know there'll be people out there too, as we stand witness against the executions this week. So Denise is reporting that she is finding, as has happened in the past, the door to the governor's office is locked and closed. Anna, can you text her and ask her to do what you did when the last time you were there with this sort of thing? And if nobody comes around, because we have also had, we've knocked on the door and a Texas state police officer comes around and out the side. And was willing to accept our petitions at one point when I was there. But Ali actually just slid all the petitions under the door, make somebody pick them up. And I tell her to get a picture also. Denise is really stepping in. She wasn't expecting to do this. I texted her last night to see if she was willing. And that is the situation. We're delivering your petitions as we speak, and that's what we know. Like I said, we delivered the petitions yesterday. I don't know if Ali has posted the pictures of that yet in Alabama, and that's what we try to do: is bring your voices straight to the seats of power, even if we're in a space where those people don't want to hear a word we're saying. We're going to still keep talking. We're going to still keep shouting. And guilty or innocent, we're opposed to every execution. I can't see a chat here, but maybe Ali, are there any questions or anybody commenting on the live streams? You're muted.
Sorry. No questions, but there are some comments. Of course, Derek Jameson's with us.
Hey, Derek.
Expressing how much he appreciates us. And there's a couple other people from the UK
Just so people know, Derek Jameson is an Ohio death row survivor, 20 years wrongfully convicted on death row in Ohio. So,
yeah, and we have Naomi, who said that she appreciated the reminder to pay more attention to every single case, not just the ones that are getting the most publicity. So I'm glad that we can do that. We're the only people talking about all these cases consistently. So I'm glad that we can do that for her and others.
I will say that the Catholic Mobilizing Network also does a petition in every case. So, and they do a month, they started doing a monthly prayer vigil just because it was too much to do them every single time. And I get that. That's a pretty standard Catholic liturgy that they do. Unlike what we do, which is talk about every case and invite people who know the prisoner and who know the issue. I mean, really, if you want a class, an ongoing class, and what are the issues around the death penalty and the executions, just come to our vigils, because normally we're joined by at least one law professor, one lawyer who's done death penalty work that spells out for us what are the legal issues, what are the public policy issues, in addition to hearing from people that are engaged in other aspects of the work. It's been a huge lesson for me learning about the law. I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV, but I can speak to some of the issues now because I've heard it over and over again. All right, Ali, has Denise been able to text back about the situation?
No, not yet. I haven't seen anything.
I'm not sure that she will. You know, he asked her to deliver the petitions, and that's what she's doing. And she does have to get back to her job as a lobbyist on other issues in Texas. So we're grateful that she's been able to take time from her day to get the petitions printed and delivered on our behalf, and also, just for being present with us. All right. Well, with that, unless you have some further comments, Jeff, I think we can wind it down. We're again asking people go to deathpenaltyaction.org. If you go to the petition for Blaine Milam and the petition for Jeffrey West, you'll find the phone numbers for Governor Ivey and Governor Abbott, and you can call them today. This is what we call our live virtual sit-in. So you can, we're just gumming up the phone lines in those governor's offices in the days prior to an execution. So that we're asking people to make those calls today, and you can find the numbers and all the information you need on the petition themselves at deathpenaltyaction.org.
I'm just going to jump in real quick. So I did put a QR code on the screen if that's easier for you to get to the Blaine Milam petition. But Denise has just messaged back, and she said that she knocked and waited until a staff member needed to come in. She spoke with somebody named Angela who received the petition signatures. She was asked to wait until she could talk to someone who could more appropriately address the issue. And then she took them and said she knew who to give them to. So there's Denise has shared a picture with us, which we will post in a little bit. But our petitions have been received.
Let's say, can you show your phone with the picture?
Hold on. One sec. I think of you in your. Okay, screen sharing is not allowed. I was trying to see if that was easier. 1 second.
Now that this restream thing has its limitations.
Yes, it does. But
okay, so
that's our petition in front of the governor's office in Texas.
See, she knows what she's doing. Denise, you're hired.
We are glad to have her back.
Okay, so with that, again, it's a record-setting year for executions. We're going to see, we are going to see Longnecker is calling her back. We are now on track to see as many executions as took place in 2012 and 11, which was 43 executions. And maybe it's possible we get up to where we were in 2010. Rob Dunham has started using 2010, in which there were 48 executions. And why are we talking about that? Because we haven't had this many executions since 2010, 2012. Last year in 2024, we had 25 executions all year. And now, if I remember correctly, we're up to 31 or 32. Jeff or Allie, we're up to 31 or 32,
I think 31.
See, that's the problem with all these executions. It's hard to keep track.
It's a mess.
And it's not about the numbers, really. It's about the people that those numbers represent. Allie's looking up. So either way, we're on track to get as many as 43 to 48 executions in 2025, and then God knows what's going to be in 2026. So we should all be repenting and praying and giving charity to avert the severe decree, as we say in Judaism at this time during the high holidays and the days of awe, when we are trying to reset ourselves prior to Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, which is coming up next week. So sorry.
So real quick before we,
Allie, you're muted.
Real quick before we leave, I am on the Death Penalty Information Center's website.
Allie, you're muted still.
No, she's not.
I'm not muted. So I'm on the Death Penalty Information Center's website.
Jeff, are you able to hear her?
Yes.
Yes. We are now at 1,638 executions in the modern era. And just this year, we are at, 31. So tomorrow's executions will be 33. And we're going to hit at least 40 before the end of the year.
Are y'all able to hear me?
Yeah. I need to.
Because I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. But I think we're pretty much done anyway. So
yeah, I think so. Thankful for everybody. Thankful for your work. Remember Blaine. Pray for Blaine. Think about Blaine. And also think about Jeff West. So anyways, thank you.